It is time to talk with Brian and Briley Backa from Advanced Financial Strategies. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Todd.
Good morning.
Appreciate you coming in this morning.
You bet.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, they came in and saw me in just a great mood.
That's exactly right.
No problems with the computers or anything like that. I was so excited to see you guys.
It's a Monday.
Yeah.
Everything works like a clock in here, huh?
Man, I'm telling you, you'd think we'd never been through a storm before and everything was just going kind of haywire. But it's okay. I'm on my 15th cup of coffee. Thanks. So I'm good to go now.
I got a question for you, Todd,
Yeah.
and everybody that's out there. If you're thinking about this, what is the correlation between Trump's first term and Trump's second term to this point in both terms to May the May the 10th ish, somewhere around in there? What's the correlation between the two, or some things that are eerily similar?
So both presidencies.
Both presidencies.
Well, I would say even with what's going on, a big change over the last couple of weeks, the market is up again. So,
well, that's exactly the correlation from January 1st of Trump's first term to about May 10th of his first term. The market was up about 23%.
yeah.
Do you know what the significance of that is to the second term?
Is it close to the same?
Almost identical, the
Yeah.
same, which is really eerily
crazy.
similar because 300 and I don't know what the time frame is, 315 trading days supposedly in the first term and the second term from January 1st up till this point in time. Each term, the market's up about 23%. The S&P 500, so it's similar, and that's kind of weird, especially when you look at April. April last year happened and the tariff situation, and then this year happened.
We've been talking about that a lot in our office, of how similar the years have been. It's not necessarily the two presidencies, but how 2025 has been to 2026 as far as how the market's performed. Just because of the big swings, because we can go back, like when we're showing people their returns and that type of stuff, we can show them, hey, April, into March, early April of 2025, that big tariff announcement happened, and there was the big dip and a big rebound,
big V bottom in both
In
scenarios.
February, everybody was kind of freaked out when the war started, went down, and now
back
it's
up to all-time
gone up.
highs.
It's done almost the exact same thing, which has been really interesting, and that's something that we really try to be proactive with. And I don't know if this is what you're getting into, Dad, but that's something that we really try to be proactive with. Is whenever we have these big drawdowns like that, like what happened, and I think I talked about this last month, but over a 10% drawdown in the market can happen for absolutely no reason at all. And there's been a lot of reasons in the market to go down right now, and so with that, there's some really good planning opportunities as well. And so, like for example, we sent out a video to all of our clients whenever that big drawdown happened and said, hey, this is a great time to make some Roth IRA contributions, because it was right around Roth IRA contribution time, or some Roth conversions as well. We had some people do some large Roth conversions during that, and they've experienced this really big run up in the market in the tax-free side in a Roth IRA instead of a taxable side of things. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise whenever we have those really big moves, because there's some planning opportunities that arise.
Well, it's funny when you talk about the first term of Trump and what correlates between this term. Markets are indeed, at record highs again. The difference is in his first term, I put all my money in Pfizer. This time I'm putting all my money in Raytheon. So I have actually guessed correctly in both Trump terms. Isn't that amazing?
You need to change jobs.
No, but it's amazing. I mean, different things happen, but at the end of the day, the market is always going to correct itself and trend upward, right? We're going to have some downturns every now and then, but
well, and that's there's a saying that it's not about timing the market; it's about spending time in the market, and that holds true. We have a lot of clients that basically kind of dollar cost average into the market, and what that means is no matter what the market's doing, you're putting money in every month, bi-monthly, whatever people want to do, and you just stay consistent. And so you are buying at some highs, don't get me wrong, but then whenever you have those big market fluctuations, you're also buying on dips as well, which obviously helps over time.
It's a good point. It brings me up to one of my points, the compound interest. People say, well, I want to accumulate wealth over time. The best way is through compound interest, and we really overestimate. A lot of people are like this. They overestimate how much they can get done in a day. You just think about your daily activities. You just always try to get more and more done, and you overestimate how much you get done, and you really never get done what you want to get done. But we severely underestimate what we can get done in a decade. So a series of small steps, a series of small decisions over time is what gets you to your goal. And it works with weight loss, it works with financial planning, it works with exercise.
Why does he stare at me when he says weight loss?
That felt like an attack.
It's not intentional, Todd. But over time, it does make a difference. People think, I want immediate gratification. I want things to happen so fast. And it just doesn't work like that. Reality is it takes time to, we call it get wealthy slow. Get rich slow, and that's what people think. Well, I want to knock the cover off the ball, and I want to jump in and get some hot stocks real quick, and it just doesn't work like that. Very seldom of the hot stock tips do they work well over time, because what happens is I see a lot of people. They'll come in and sometimes we run into folks like this. They want to buy something, so we buy the stock for them. And then it runs up, and we always talk to them about, okay, at what point do you want to sell this? Because it doesn't go to infinity.
Yeah.
They just don't keep climbing forever. So you got to be happy with a 5, 10, 20% return, whatever your number is, and be ready to take some profits.
Well, and let's be honest, trading individual stocks, I know people like to do that, but it's only successful if you're in Congress. Right?
Well, they need
seriously.
to do it over time. It's not something, buy and hold helps, but there's all kinds of different strategies. But it's just, really, Nancy Pelosi, they call that
there you go.
We actually ran into somebody not too long ago, because there's apps out there that say they track, what Congress does and that type of stuff. And so you can be invested, like, Dad said, Nancy Pelosi, you can be invested
Man,
like that.
I need to follow her, I guess.
These apps are always way behind, though.
Yeah, and there's the thing, and the reason they're able to get that data is because there are reports, and I can't remember what the report's called, but there are reports that people in Congress in power have to disclose, what they're investing in and that type of stuff. And I can't remember what the days are, so don't hold me to this, but I think it's like 90 days or something like that, as far as the lag. And so, yes, you might be invested in similar things, but when that trade's done, the moves happened, and you're behind. You may be able to experience some of the upside, but you're going to miss a lot of those big swings. But to kind of piggyback off of what Dad was talking about, and kind of moving on to kind of the psychological side of things of what we deal with is, we deal with a lot of people that have done a really good job, saving and working over a 30 to 40 year time frame. We've kind of ran into a few people recently that have worked for like 40 years for the same company, which is just unheard of nowadays. But with that, they've done a really good job saving, but they have not really worked on or really had to worry about spending. And that becomes hard. And so what I mean by that is, we deal with people all the time that we've, sat across the table with, that they may have, $800,000, $2 million, $4 million, whatever, and, plenty of money to do what they want to do.
They still feel like they don't have enough.
Well, and the thing is, what's interesting is they're pulling, say, $10,000 a month out of their IRA or whatever. That's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but their portfolio can sustain that. And, they're worried about turning their AC down or something like that whenever the weather's warm, or going on a $10,000, vacation or something like that. Things that are just an absolute drop in the bucket for the amount of money that we're working with. And so that's like where a plan comes into play. So we can kind of help them say, hey, this is how much money you can spend comfortably and still watch your assets grow. This is what the tax ramifications are. We can kind of coordinate this with Social Security, but also we got to watch out for, giving them too much money or sending them too much money to jack their Medicare rates up, all that type of stuff. So there's a lot of things to watch out for, but a lot of people are almost looking for permission to spend their money.
But isn't that a psychological thing? Because there's two kinds of people, as Dave Ramsey says, spenders and savers. And savers, they think it's weird to spend money on anything, but that's one of the reasons they've accumulated wealth.
That's exactly right. But a point happens, Todd, and it happens to all of us if we live long enough. The calendar gets there, and that's it says retirement date. Here's where your psychological, mental status can change. And you've worked for so long for this particular date on the calendar. Well, now it's here, and now it comes time to what I call efficiently decumulate those assets over time. Still make them last as long as you do, but do it efficiently and do it where you don't feel guilty to spend your money, because that's what you saved it for.
Yeah.
You didn't save it to pile up and then pass away, and we see that a lot too.
Yeah, don't give it to your kids. You've heard that song MacArthur, on the country station, or the 4 generations of that family. That last kid's just going to
blow it.
Yeah. If it becomes easy, it tends to happen for sure. But, you can put fail-safes in place. You can do some trust work and some trust language that, spoon feeds basically the money out over if you pass prematurely. But it gives you the right to basically dictate what happens to your money after you're gone too. And that's it gives you control from the grave, so to speak. And that's what a lot of attorneys can do for you, is set up something like that. It's very meaningful.
Well, Dad's one time was. Do we need to go to break?
Yeah, go ahead though. Finish your thought though.
Well, we'll come back and we'll talk about. Dad had an old ad that would run, and it was talking about being the richest person in the cemetery. And so we'll talk about that here in just a little bit.
Good point. We're talking with Brian and Briley Backa from Advanced Financial Strategies. It's the Western Oklahoma Wake Up Show, brought to you by Priority Home Medical Equipment.
L&R Tire, Farmers Union Co-op, and Boomtown Grill would like to salute the graduating class of 2026 from Merritt High School.
Hi, I'm Ainsley Partain, the co-salutatorian of Merritt High School. In the fall, I will attend OSU to study speech pathology, and the thing I'm going to miss most is seeing all the elementary students every day. And good luck to my fellow 2026 classmates.
One final salute to the graduating class of 2026 from Merritt High School from L&R Tire, Farmers Union Co-op, and Boomtown Grill.
Turn back the pages of history. See the Route 66 Porterhouse Diner, where Elvis ate a hamburger. Play school in a one-room schoolhouse. Take photos of historic classic cars and trucks, all on display at the Heartland of America Museum in Weatherford, with hundreds of exciting exhibits giving you an up-close look at the life in Weatherford and western Oklahoma, all along Route 66.
Get your kicks on Route 66.
Visit the Heartland of America Museum today, located on South Frontage Road, just off the East Main Weatherford exit between Airport Road.
What are you waiting for? If you're anything like me, that question keeps you up at night. So don't wait for someone else's green light. Do the things you love right now at Western Technology Center. We'll get you out of the classroom and into the real world with hands-on experience in whatever feeds your fire. So get after it. Oklahoma needs more doers, and doers don't wait. Western Technology Center, powered by Oklahoma Career Tech.
Deer Creek Market and Variety in Hydro, the best in friendly small-town customer service, hosting everything from fresh hand-cut steaks, fresh ground beef made in-house, along with fresh fruits and vegetables grown and made in Oklahoma, nuts, candies, salsas, pickles, and more. And don't forget to check out the Variety side, full of unique made-in-Oklahoma gift items. And now, treat yourself to the brand-new ice cream and coffee parlor, your new go-to spot for a sweet scoop or a fresh brew. Shop Deer Creek Market and Variety in Hydro.
Over 20,000 square feet of furniture and appliances at Todfest. David.
Harold, we are the one-stop shop. Literally, we have mattresses, furniture, and appliances. We've been here 80 years, and the reason we're here is because we service people after the sale.
A big tradition going on at Todfest for 80 years, folks. Shop at Todfest for all your furniture and appliances. Todfest, the best in quality, service, and price. Main corner, downtown Weatherford.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love, with no artificial sweeteners, only 30 calories, just 5 grams of sugar, and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. That great Pepsi taste with even more to love. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
And all Pepsi products are brought to you locally, as always, by the Nicholson family at Pepsi in Clinton.
Pop the top on Route 66 at Clinton Liquor Store. The Centennial Cruise will be at Clinton Liquor Store the entire month of May at 1018 South 10th in Clinton. This is your opportunity to get your name drawn at the end of the month. You could have that key that could be driving away in December in that Route 66 wrapped Suburban. Large selection of your favorite brands of wine, spirits, and beer, and take a pick of a great selection of cigars, too. No matter the celebration, they have what you should be sipping. 1018 South 10th Street in Clinton, the Centennial Cruise at a Clinton Liquor Store. Then join us on Friday, May 29th from 2 to 6. We'll draw our next lucky key-holding winner that could start that Suburban in December. Off the top on Route 66 at Clinton Liquor Store. It's the Centennial Cruise with Clinton Liquor Store and Wright Media.
$7:25. It is the Western Oklahoma Wake Up Show. In studio today, Brian and Briley Backa from Advanced Financial Strategies. And you were just starting a thought there, Briley. We'll let you get back to it.
Yeah, Dad has a radio ad, as an older radio ad that we had, and it really makes you think, and we have a lot of people that still talk about it. We may end up rerunning it, but it talks about being the richest person in the cemetery, and basically, getting to that is, we deal with a lot of oversavers. People that save. We were talking off air just a little bit ago about Dave Ramsey and talking about, there's savers and there's spenders. And that kind of, thought that Dad had really kind of hits people between the eyes, because you can't take any of this with you. And whenever we're doing full-blown planning for people, and we can show you, hey, starting with, say $1 million, and you're, take your income through retirement and that type of stuff, and we're still showing you to pass away with, say, $3 million or something like that, that's great, but you can't take it with you. And so, do you want to increase your spending in those earlier years of retirement, whenever you're the most healthy you're ever going to be, instead of, we see people talk about they need increasing income in retirement, so they need more income because of inflation when they're 85, 90. I don't necessarily agree with that to a point. On an inflation basis, yeah, you're probably going to need more money, but from a lifestyle standpoint, not really. You got to think about, my grandmother, she passed away in her early 90s, and at the end of her life, she wasn't doing anything. She was sitting out on the farm in her chair watching Westerns all day. She didn't spend any money. She wasn't traveling. She
eventually hit 85, 90 years old. It's different for everybody, but you just lose the desire to go do things, and it doesn't cost that much to live anymore. It's basically just staying at home and paying your
especially if
bill.
you're not spending gas, right?
Yeah,
especially right now.
That's true. Makes a big difference. But, I said a while ago, people underestimate how much they can get done over a decade of time. And I would encourage people. And, after tax season's over with, I know in January we come on here and we talk about New Year's resolutions and things, but then tax time hits. But usually May is the first month that really people can focus on the rest of the year and their savings and make some changes, because taxes are over with. Hopefully you filed your taxes and everything worked out good. But if you continue to save over time, it really will make a difference. And Bradley brought up a point, talking about $1 million or $2 million. The second million and the third million, I'm just telling you, happens way faster for folks, because without the proper saving in the early years and without that foundational habits of saving, the first million doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But once the first million happens, you got to think, let's say we go through a year and we get a 20% return, and if you're invested appropriately in a well-diversified portfolio, you should get even with the market at least. So let's say the market does 20%. 1 year you get a 20% return, and this is possible. We've seen it several times. $1 million turns into $1.2 million. So if you're drawing retirement income off that, let's say you're pulling $40,000 a year off that to supplement your Social Security, your assets are still going to grow. So you are going to experience significant growth on your assets in retirement, more than likely, because you're not going to be spending that much income when you get those large moves in the market. Your assets will grow to a point where you realistically, if you're living on a normal budget, you're not going to spend the money. You're just not going to. So, but it does take time. It takes a lifetime a lot of times for people, decades. But think about your portfolio in terms of decades. Don't look at for immediate gratification. Think I'm going to invest for 6 months and all of a sudden I'm going to turn a small amount of money into a large amount of money. It's very rare that happens.
One thing I wanted to touch on real quick is something that we've unfortunately ran into somewhat recently. We've lost a few clients that were a little bit younger, in their 60s, somewhat recently. And there's some, hidden tax problems that people deal with, from a death, and then from another standpoint that I'm going to touch on. But we recently just did a review with a person, and they've done an incredible job saving, have more money than they're really going to ever need. And some of the tax problems that they're going to deal with is at 75, based on this person's birthday, they're going to have to take those required minimum distributions that we talked about. We're projecting them to take about a $400,000 required minimum distribution by the time they're 75, and it's forced, and that's every single year depending on what their account balance is, and they can't control it. It's just a forced distribution the government wants. And so something that they're not going to be able to control, more than likely, is for one, that's going to be taxed. They're going to almost instantly be in one of the top tax brackets, depending on what tax brackets are at 75, whenever they're 75. The other thing is that's automatically going to increase how much they pay for Medicare as well. And then something that we've been dealing with recently is we call it the widow's penalty. And what that means is when you die, you got to think that when you're filing as joint filers, taxes are a little bit more favorable to you. The tax brackets are a little bit more extended, so you've got more space in there to make money. But whenever you're a single filer, they're a little bit more compressed, and so it's easier to reach those higher tax brackets. And so the surviving spouse, kind of ends up getting taxed more, especially when you're dealing with people that have $1 million+ because there's those minimum distributions don't stop. And you're taxed at single rates instead of joint rates, and so it's an unfortunate problem that people have with that widow's penalty.
A lot of puzzle pieces, Todd.
That's why you need financial planning,
right.
and that's
Exactly.
what you guys do. What's the best way to get in touch with Advanced Financial Strategies?
Just give us a call at the office, 323-6800, right there in Clinton. Been in the same building for 30 years, a little over 30 years now.
Yeah, going on 31 now. But also visit our website. It's retirewithBACA.com, and you can schedule visits on there as well. It goes right to our calendar.
Awesome. Good stuff today, guys. Brian and Briley Baca from Advanced Financial Strategies.